our friend Nomi Fry.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Nomi is a writer for The New Yorker.
Yes, that's true.
You were previously at...
I was previously at T Magazine at the Times, but now I'm at The New Yorker, just recently, as of like 3 months ago.
You penned an article that was a book review of 2 memoirs.
Right, about sluts.
About sluts.
And I quoted you, Dasha.
Yes,
and
which
your
feminist
very
platform.
Yeah. I was like, I have the perfect quote for this part.
This is the first and only time one of us will ever be allowed in the corridors of the New Yorker.
That's not true. I think it's just the beginning, honestly.
I just moved here and I'm already the
you're burying them. You're burying them.
You know, they have a restraining order against me. They're
They
like,
won't let
sir,
me in.
you gotta stay 1,000 feet away from the premises. One of the literary titans of American letters died yesterday, Philip Roth.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. Age 85. It's a fun age.
That's not bad,
Yeah.
Pretty good. He retired from writing a few years ago.
Like 5 years ago.
Very dignified thing to do.
Yeah, but that's how you know somebody's going to die, when they retire from their
He had 5
practice.
years, though,
Yeah.
which is pretty good. He didn't die immediately.
Yeah, he didn't wither away.
Yeah.
And I think he was like, someone was writing a biography for him. So I think he was doing a lot of...
Oh, so that kept him alive, the stream of narcissistic validation.
He was like spinning his wheels a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like the O. Henry thing, where like once the last leaf like falls off the tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so maybe they put the last sentence on the memoir and then... I don't know this to be true, by the way.
He said in an interview that it's not even a memoir, it's like his biographer will probably have it finished by like 2022. And he's even said, like, I might hang on until then, but probably not.
You know that we're talking about a Jewish male artist because he admittedly openly worked closely with his biographer, which is something people who are not vortexes of narcissism don't do. But first off, I have a confession to make that's also sort of a disclaimer. I have never actually read any Philip Roth outside of like briefly dabbling with Portnoy's Complaint in college. But I will say that I have fantasized about Philip Roth in the same breath as like Leonard Cohen and Leonard Bernstein. Philip Roth is like exactly my type, you guys. Like, he's bookish, Jewish, an artist.
The Jewish animal.
Misogynist,
self-obsessed because he has an overactive male ego, and even more self-obsessed because his overactive male ego has like artistic aspirations and also Holocaust trauma.
Yes.
Yeah, like I need a man who will love himself way more than he could ever love me.
Listen, I get it.
Yeah.
I read Philip Roth way too young. I think that I was maybe like 11 years old when I read Portnoy's Complaint because it was on some list of banned books that I came across at my like public school. And so I read it very like unknowingly, and then it rocked my world and is probably responsible for, and like rearranged my brain and is responsible probably for a lot of the sexual proclivities and preferences I have for Jews.
Yeah.
And then after that I went on to read. I maybe read 6 of his novels.
I went on to read.
I went on to continue. I stopped reading after that. He was like a formative writer for me.
Yeah.
But also, Anna, Philip Roth, like, apropos of what you were saying about, like, how he loves himself more than he could ever love you, he wasn't a big fan of the Jewish woman. He liked them.
Like them chicks.
Not Jewish.
Like them leggy and blonde.
Yeah. Leggy and blonde.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's another kind of element in the whole thing of, like, for me, when I encounter that type of thing, it's like I get very upset and yet very seduced.
I mean, it's unattainable. And, I like, can you imagine, like, a guy like Philip Roth existing, like, now in the age of Me Too and, writing masturbatory fantasies about, like, Scandinavian chicks? No, it's, like, crazy. But I almost... I'm into this type. Like, here's the thing with Jewish guys, which is in my experience and also my mother's experience, is that they're all raging sex addicts because they have like a combination of self-hatred and also like this kind of like fear of mortality or whatever. And this is true. They're like, running around spreading their seed all over the world or whatever. But ultimately, that mode of being to me is more attractive because it's literally more vital, more virile than like being like one of these sexless media theory bros.
Sure.
Who sits alone in their apartment and like chugs coffee and writes about platform capitalism.
There are more male options.
There are.
Those are the two genders.
No, it's just those two. It's just those two things.
Well, that's a very anti-Semitic trope, is like the Jews defiling are like, which plays into the whole Me Too thing as well.
Wait, what's an anti-Semitic trope?
That these like Jews are defiling our like
they just
lovely
fuck
chicks
the
actresses.
Yeah, they just want to fuck.
I wish they would defile me. But my feeling is like, if they want to write entire tomes about getting their dick wet with chicks as, be my guest, like knock yourself out, it really beats, being like a Ben Bratton or an Alex Galloway and writing like boring procedural fanfic. Like that's where like the Tech Bros channel their sexual, like their libidinous impulses is into like writing about work and like labor, and I'm just like boring.
But then there's also like the type of tech bro who's like, like the burner, like the tech bro who's like into, like what we were talking about with like Elon Musk and the sort of like
microdosing.
The microdosing, the polyamory, the experimental sexuality, the threesomes, the like. There's nothing grosser to me than that. There's nothing worse.
Me too, because those guys are like all polyamorous and into sex as play.
Well, that's really detached in contrast to someone like Roth from this like fear of mortality, from this like it's not grounded in this like death thing.
Right.
Like I really love a man who's so obsessed with like outrunning his own mortality that he like walks outside to get a bagel with lox one day and like literally gets hit by a bus because he's like so preoccupied like with his own thoughts or whatever.
That's your type.
Philip Roth basically did for masturbation what like somebody like Duchamp did for appropriation or like Warhol did for star fucking. Like he elevated it to an art form. Yeah, which is great because like a lot of us lived these kind of like cloistered, horny lives in our respective suburbs, and I feel like that kind of accessible literary mode was probably.
Well, he was very controversial, right? In the offset by like Jews really resented him for not only for his negative depiction of Jewish women, but for like airing their dirty laundry.
I read an account that said that there was some rabbi who went on record to say that Philip Roth's writing was more dangerous to like the Jewry than the protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is like my favorite book.
Yeah, that's good.
Something else I've noticed, I was guilty of this as well. I was sort of anticipating this like Twitter media backlash of people like calling you a misogynist, ready to like jumping at the bits to like defend him. And I've seen a lot of people also kind of ready to do that. Like I tried to read an article in the Telegraph, but it was like paywalled, so I couldn't. But it was the headline was, "If Virtue Signaler's brand Philip Roth is a misogynist, what hope is there for the novel?" And everyone's like really ready
to defend him.
Yeah, to defend him, despite there actually not really being very much backlash.
But I
was searching on Twitter like Philip Roth misogynist. Like, okay,
Me
let's
too.
see. Like,
let's go.
Let's see what you social justice warriors have to say, and it's like nothing. Like mostly people are just like
a quote. We can leave it to the New York Times to like kill the mood with identity politics. Like they're like literally dancing on the grave of the great daddy of American letters with their woke bullshit. This is the quote: "Mr. Roth was the last of the great white males, the triumvirate of writers. Saul Bellow, John Updike were the others, who towered over American letters in the second half of the 20th century. Outliving both and borne aloft by an extraordinary second wind, Mr. Roth wrote more novels than either of them." And I was thinking, like, this just makes him sound like old and flatulent. Like, did anybody else pick up on the shade, you know? Like, it sounds like a little bit like the New Yorker profile, I mean, it was the New York Times, has to be basically a little bit problematic. But they were, like, really getting their digs in. Like this great white male.
The great,
You guys know what you call a great white male who also happens to be Jewish? A great white shark. Get it? Because they scheme you out of money. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't read Philip Roth at all, so
you would
maybe
enjoy it. You would probably like.
I mean, I think in such a long career, I read maybe like 5 books of his, which is like such a relatively small percentage, because in such a long career, there's going to be like ups and downs and books you like and books you don't like.
Yeah. What's your Philip Roth jam?
I remember. Well, the first one I read when I was maybe 12 or 13, because my older sister had it, was Goodbye Columbus, and I really liked it. Because it was about Jews, and because he actually dated a Jew in that story. She was like a rich Jew. She was like a richer Jew, so it was there was still a kind of like power differential. But I remember really liking it as a mere child. You know, and then like I remember I was grossed out when I was like older. You know, I read like The Human Stain, and I read like you know, some of the Zuckerman novels, and like it's like, you know, I have to say I was a little bit, I mean, he was like amazing, but he was also like, you know, very like male in his perspective in a way that often grossed me out. Like I didn't want to read about like
there's a part in my life as a man where he describes like going down on his wife and like this very like disgusting, like the word leathery is used.
Yeah, it's like the pendulous breasts of like, you know, it's just like I don't want to.
And I like can't forget it.
Yeah, it's like scarred your mind.
I mean, for better or worse, it's visceral.
Sure.
Well, the other thing that I was thinking of, I thought of 2 things. First of all, like, you know, kudos to him for being such a horn dog, but also being so prolific. Like, if I was a guy and fucking all these chicks, I could never pump out the amount of work that this man could. But the other thing,
Zuckerman, who's the sort of narrator of 3 of his novels, he wrote like a trilogy narrated by this character Nathan Zuckerman, who has prostate cancer. And is sort of like sexless and like ubiquitous in this way. And I don't know if that's based on his own experience. Like at a certain point, he became less libidinous for some reason. But
well, he's like what I got from that, like the quick summary I read, the Wikipedia entry I read, was that basically he's talking about like the humiliation and indignity of like a waning male sexuality.
Right.
But the other thing I was thinking was like, you know, if you had like women get a lot of flack for writing like feminist confessional literature, and I'm one of the people giving them the flack, but imagine if you had a woman writer who was like so prolific and wrote about her experiences having sex with men. Like that would never
we have Jackie Collins.
I've never read any.
R.I.P. Oh my god. Yeah, amazing.
But like
another thing I read Way Too Young, and it's like so sexy and so crazy.
What's the deal with her?
It's like, you know, it's like fucking and shopping novels, you know, it's like Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
In the 70s and 80s, like moguls and their bored wives, and the wives are having affairs with the pool boys, and there's like always some like deals gone south, and like, you know, a girl who came from nowhere and like was a call girl and then clawed her way up to be like, you know, the wife of the most powerful like industry titan. It's like very you know, it's like very performatively trashy, you know, but it's incredible. And she just died like a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago.
I probably read
It was very sexy. It's very,
Judy Blume's Forever. I read around the same time I read Portnoy's Complaint, and those were 2 very like swirling around in my like preteen.
Your skull,
like,
I remember Ralph.
No.
Ralph was his penis.
Right, I remember the vagina being described as a silky secret mouth. And that being something
that's
that
so dark.
like another thing I couldn't forget.
One of the biggest literary moments, it's not so much a moment because it's recurring, that stands out to me is like in the work of my favorite male Jewish writer, Alberto Moravia, who was Italian, kind of like a post-war neo-realist, and he refers to women's pubic hair as like a dark stain, which I really love because it's so
inky.
Yeah, because it's also so dark.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like this kind of like weird, almost creepy, misogynistic stuff that you find in literature written by men about women. But it sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, like a couple of episodes back, about the whole like Woody Allen, Roman Polanski thing, like especially with regard to Woody Allen and how like, you know, your duty as an artist is not so much to be like a role model as to be like a great
To represent reality.
an explorer of human nature. I do like that Philip Roth, by all accounts, was a guy who sort of played up and exaggerated certain elements of his persona and was like fairly, I guess, reclusive. Like he was like selectively.
After Goodbye Columbus, he like left New York.
Yeah, he lives in Connecticut.
Okay.
Were his I also have not read Philip Roth, but were his depictions of sex like graphic, like bordering?
Very much so.
Yeah, because it's funny because I've read Updike and he famously can't write sex scenes.
He's like a different
Yeah, he's
brand
like a
of
totally
misogynist.
different, but was equally like subversive in his writing.
Porter's Complaint is like an index of perversions. It's like
Yeah, I saw like, I mean, I like that description where he has like a description of like cum that's like, it's like buttermilk and chlorine or whatever.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I think the thing that stuck in my mind for Portnoy's Complaint, which I also read like as a teenager, I guess, was I haven't read it since, but didn't he like masturbate on his sister's bra or something? Do you remember that?
and he fucks a piece of beef, like liver that his mom has. That's like a very famous one.
I mean, but that's what teenage boys do, right? They like fuck everything. It doesn't have to even be like they fuck soft.
And it like spans his life through these through this overbearing Jewish mother, like through his adulthood.
Yeah.
And the various
we have overbearing Jewish mothers to blame for all these psychosexual neuroses.
I only have Philip Roth to blame.
Its main theme was that male sexuality was a source of rage and disorder, which is sort of the opposite of what pop philosopher Jordan Peterson is saying, where he says femininity is chaos and then masculinity by default is presumably orderly. Yeah.
But he also Jordan Peterson thinks that thwarted male sexuality, it results in these sort of like violent outbursts that we see.
Yeah, this is like
you have to satisfy it, otherwise the chaos has to be brought to bear on the order, or for there to be order, the chaos of woman has to be neutralized by the man's penis and a monogamous
12 rules for life, an antidote to chaos.
This is probably a fairly accurate description. I was thinking that Jordan Peterson, I was like, Googling him today. I agree with Naomi. I've been avoiding
it. I'm just like, I can't take it.
I love an armchair philosopher. I can't resist.
A toilet philosopher,
Yeah, Bill Maher loves him, and they're like two peas in a pod.
But Jordan Peterson, I don't know if you guys ever watched Kids in the Hall. He reminds me of the Will Do character, the guy that's like Will Do, who's played by Kevin McDonald. He like looks like that guy, except he's like a touch more histrionic. I also read
a lot.
That he makes 80,000 on donations alone a month. That's like #goals. Yeah.
But then he spends it all on like Soviet
memorabilia
to remind himself of the terror.
That's
what it said in the thing. Yeah, he said like, why do you have it up to remind himself of oppression?
Okay.
And when they asked him like, maybe it's you're living like under an unnecessary amount of stress, And he said, like, well, life is really stressful. So.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
he
how I
also
feel.
has a real affinity for like Maoist philosophy. Because in an interview I was watching, he was talking about how should women wear makeup in the workplace? Should they wear high heels? Because that is inherently sexual. Like red lips signals what happens to your lips when you're like giving oral sex. Like
It's like the butt of a baboon.
Yeah. That's what my mother used to say.
Plumage.
But I think like the problem with people like Jordan Peterson is that they are fairly good at like evaluating and diagnosing the reality, but their prescriptions for the reality are woefully wrong. And then the problem with their like kind of liberal critics is that they get evaluative and prescriptive all mixed up, so they are like firing back at, they're basically like critiquing everything that Peterson says, including the things that he says that are fairly correct. Like I was thinking of this in terms of like the Zizek the Zizek critique of him that was in the Independent, which you sent along.
I didn't read that. What did he say?
It's let me pull this up.
I mean, it was very Zizekian
Yeah.
in its own, you know, he did his usual like Lacanian
bullshit,
babbling.
like psycho babbling.
And I do like Zizek.
I love Zizek. He's a total daddy. But you know, it's funny that Jordan Peterson and Zizek basically have a love of communist propaganda in common. No, Zizek's basic premise here, I'm going to pull it up, is that the cause of today's problems, which are imminent to today's global capitalism, is projected onto an external intruder, and he brings up kind of these quasi-Lacanian examples of like a jealous male spouse who catches his wife cheating, or the Nazis who vilified the Jews as because they were sort of like seeking out internal ethno-integrity, right? And they had to, or like national integrity, and they had to, in order for them to do that, they had to single out another. And in Peterson's case, it's women.
Yeah.
And Zizek basically says that the populist right wing and the politically correct left wing practice complementary forms of lying. So like the former exaggerates racial and ethnic cultural differences to make the point that the other is a threat, and the latter downplays them to protect its moral superiority and kind of like assuage its guilty conscience. And that's his basic premise. I think he's correct, right?
Yeah, he's definitely onto something. But the women being chaotic is like an extremely ancient.
It just seems super basic to me.
Yeah,
like
after Aristotle was the first one.
Yeah, I mean, like after I tried to avoid reading about Jordan Peterson
Until we made
for like
you.
many weeks. You know, when I finally read the thing, I was like, oh, so that's it? That's like,
That's your great $1 million
that's like your
insight.
thing, that women are like, their sexuality is destructive, and men, you know, need to harness it to produce order in society. I don't know, it just seemed like, oh, yeah, like every other...
Like, you know, like Peterson is kind of buddy-buddy with Camille Paglia, who we love, and her original, her conceit was that women's sexuality is chaotic and is very powerful, and they should harness it and use it to their advantage.
Right.
Whereas Peterson is saying it's chaotic and powerful, and men should seek to kind of control it and snuff it out where possible.
It seems kind of different. I mean, yeah, it seems like to work, at least, you know, purportedly to totally different ends. If you want to bring a hierarchy, you know, if you want, like, there to be a hierarchical relationship between men and women, or whether you want women.
But the premise is very similar, and it reminded me of Baudrillard has a book called Seduction, in which the thesis is sort of that masculine, the inverse of productive forces, which are masculine, is sort of like a symbolic seductive order, which is very feminine and powerful in its own sort of way, and that seduction isn't like soluble in power, that it's like this different kind of, it's very like metaphysical, sort of what he's describing, but like that women having this relationship, like chaos and the natural order, is actually really powerful because it subverts all the structures that already exist.
It's like a one gender role on neoliberalism. Because, like, you know, men are always harping about how women keep them from being productive.
Yeah, it's funny because he's really on the fence about whether or not women and men can work together in a professional sense.
Nope.
I watched an interview with him and he keeps going back, you know, we've only been doing this for 40 years. We don't know yet. I'm like in the wake of Me Too, like, I'm not sure. He really, that's his take.
That's where Venmo feminism comes in.
Yeah,
Exactly. And again, the seductive symbolic order. It's like about like compensation for this other area of expertise that isn't acknowledged by like the powers.
Well, I mean, he's not entirely wrong. I mean, a lot of the sort of misery and pain that women
the enforced
experience.
monogamy is a hard pill to swallow.
He's a real
Yeah, it
sexual
is, yeah.
conservative.
Yeah, it just seems extremely pathetic to me.
It seems pathetic,
Like
yeah.
the way he looks and the way he talks and just like
His
everything about him is just very.
To want to redistribute girlfriends and then nothing else, like
Yeah, it's like great.
everything else we pull ourselves up by our bootstraps,
Yeah.
but like with women's sexuality, that's the thing that we
Well, I think
step
like
in and
the
correct.
biggest irony with these guys who want like sexual redistribution and enforced monogamy is that they like are basically I'm like looking at these New York Times notes, but they fantasize about kind of a return to the patriarchy, but can't do the bare minimum to behave like men. Like, you know, if you had, as we said, if you had like good or decent basic hygiene, like a decent sense of comedic timing, a decent sense of chivalry, and weren't insufferably cheap, life would be, you know, you'd be coasting. Like, you know, life really is a pussy buffet. Women will throw themselves at you if you do the bare minimum.
It's quite easy.
Yeah, and they don't want to do that, which I don't understand, because isn't the whole joy of being a man, and, you know, we can talk about power dynamics as being like a negative thing or a positive thing or whatever, but isn't the whole joy of being a man taking care of a woman? And vice versa, in those like kind of private sexual dynamics. Like, this is what I don't understand. Like, why would anybody want a sex doll?
Well, I think
On demand.
It's on demand. It's like dealing with another human being. You know, obviously we're more than our socially prescribed roles, and some people are unable to fill those roles for whatever, you know, psychological or social reason.
Sure.
I mean,
but in a strictly
and a sex doll, it like simulates, you know.
But I mean, like, in a strictly sexual capacity, you as a man know that 9 times out of 10 you're going to come anyway. Isn't the joy of sex then bringing the woman to orgasm, let's say? And like the same kind of
that would be nice.
I mean, yeah, it would be nice. But I just don't think everyone is able to perform that role.
No, of course not. But if you extrapolate that, like, I think, like, basically what I'm saying, kind of in a roundabout fashion, is that what makes you a man and what gives you kind of a masculine sense of self-esteem is how well you can take care of and provide for women. And these guys don't want to do the bare minimum of like taking care of or providing for women.
Yeah,
which is like shocking to me, because then they're not entitled to our sweet snatches.
and I think that's where the rage comes from. I mean, obviously, because they, I think, realize that on some level that's what is expected of them, or they should be doing, and they, for whatever reason, can't or won't, and then they're like, why, like, you bitch, like, why is that what you want from me?
Yeah, well, I think because they don't want to, but I think more likely because it doesn't occur to them. And my feeling about it is like, don't you want to? Like, you know, like, my greatest dream is to cook and clean for a man and like fold his boxers. I'll go on record. No, it's true. It's really true. I enjoy this kind of thing. But like, that's what gives me joy and makes me feel like a human being. And And like, I would be willing to enter into a sort of like exchange with a man on those terms, provided he was willing to take care of me in certain ways.
Financially.
Yeah, financially, like emotionally, sexually, whatever. It's a mutual, it's an exchange.
Sure.
So I'm confused when these guys, like these incel guys or these manosphere guys, are like complaining about their lack of access to monogamy, because we were saying on like the incel episode that they don't want sex robots or sex workers. They want monogamy.
Right.
They want to be in a relationship with a woman.
Sex workers are whores who are inherently tainted.
Yeah.
Are not able to satisfy whatever psychosexual thing they're really after.
Yeah, so I'm confused as to the breakdown there, because one would think that they would be then willing.
And I think it's like Philip Roth is mixed up with rage and a need to dominate in ways that aren't quote unquote contract bound, you know? So even if in a perfect world, again, quote unquote, or like a man wants to care and a woman wants to, you know, care in other ways, you know, there's some sort of like contractually bound exchange. It's like, I think there's also some confusion that stems from like a kind of like, I don't know, like a kind of like rage that still sticks around, that somehow like gets in the cogs of the wheel of like anything that kind of veers from that contract in a way.
And I think they feel excluded from disorder that they see maybe other people partaking in a more functional way.
I know. I mean, I think about this all the time. I mean, I guess it's sort of like akin to the rage that I feel being passed over for shiksas and Asians or whatever. But, you know, sometimes you get on this, like, kind of high horse and you extrapolate and project, like, a lot of things onto relationships that you see from the side, and it's like, you know, it's not any better on the inside.
No.
People in relationships are miserable too.
Yes.
They're always like bickering and infighting.
Oh, that's true.
And I think like if these guys like basically learned to look past themselves, they might stand a chance in the so-called sexual marketplace.
They need to see analysts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not Jungian ones.
No,
like
definitely
Jordan
not.
Peterson privileges.
I love the part where Jordan Peterson was Skyping with like this incel guy.
Yeah. So that's part of the
profile.
supremacy provides.
And he wore like boxer shorts and like a jacket or something, and it said like he knows where the frame cuts him off.
I watched an interview with him. I was on Vice. It was really bad, but both of them didn't have socks on. They just like sat sockless. I did want to bring one thing up though, since you're the first mom that we've ever
I am a mom,
had.
it's
Yeah,
true.
Noe is a mom. And not just a mom to like a cat or a dog, like a real.
Well, I do have two cats.
Okay.
Two
So
kids,
also
Two cats and a child.
one child.
Yeah.
So one of Peterson's takes is, do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
In his 12 rules for living.
Yeah, this is the rule.
If you hate
Do not
skaters,
let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
And until what age are we talking?
Right. Until you can no longer forbid them from doing something, I guess.
Anyway, he's saying
In 12 Rules for Living by Jordan Peterson, rule number 5 is do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Does your daughter do anything that makes you dislike her?
I mean, you know, she's a person, so obviously, I mean, what does dislike mean? Like, yeah,
Dislike
sure.
is
I
someone
mean,
hacking.
fleetingly, not like essentially.
Permanently,
I guess I brought it up only because it makes me think about having children and how I am destined to dislike my child. I believe that if I have a kid, I will not like it.
Yeah,
Well, you know-
I had that fear as well. I did before I had a child, and
You've got such a great kid.
I'm here to put your fears to rest, because both my mother and my father strongly disliked me, but my dad died, and my mother is proud of me for being a podcaster, so it gets better.
When did it shift from dislike to pride? Just with the podcast, like 2 months ago?
No, I think it's like being horrible. But no, I think this rule is basically like, Jordan Peterson basically is known for being kind of a patron saint and a father figure to like angry young men who are probably a little bit too old to be angry young men. And my hunch is that he also appeals to kind of older set of people who are maybe Gen Xers, not quite boomers. And basically what he's saying is, dads, don't let your daughters fuck black guys. That's where that's going.
That's interesting. So I can't sympathize with that. But I think as a mom,
Is there anything you would forbid your daughter to do?
I mean,
Short of criminal.
Yeah, sure.
activity,
I mean, of
something.
course, like anything, at some point she'll do what she wants, but I would like her to be like a thinking, sympathetic, reflective person. That's, I guess, what I would hope for. At some point I won't be able to control that, and I probably can't totally control that even now. She's 7, so.
Would you be disappointed if she wanted to become, say, an actress?
Oh, I thought you were going to say lesbian.
No, I mean, I think I would just be, I'm a warrior, so I would be worried for her, whatever path she takes that might be,
Complicated
or
unstable.
lined with, potential pitfalls and, feelings of, low self-esteem and,
Sure.
confronting, a corrupt industry or, all of that. But I think I would like to think that I would support whatever her quote-unquote passion is. Whatever that means. I would like her to do something she feels strongly about and that she is connected to, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the assumption there with that rule is that parents are smarter than their children, which is only fleetingly and temporarily true in many cases.
Already since the thing is, I think as a mom,
I'm pretty, as a person, I'm pretty conflict averse, I think, and I'm as a mom, I feel like I love Nina so much that I want us to have a sort of unity of, I feel I would end up being the sort of mom who would do heroin with my son or something, just to be cool. I'm kidding. Child services, if you're listening, it's not gonna happen. I mean, God forbid. I mean, please no. But I just mean I just feel like I really wouldn't be the sort of parent, I don't think, who would lay down the law in a way that's extremely, authoritarian or something.
You would smoke cigarettes with her.
Yeah.
I mean,
I smoke cigarettes with my mom now. This is
but that's very Russian. I feel like that's very, I never, I remember telling my parents I smoked when I was I finally broke down and told them when I was 19 or something, after smoking secretly for years.
Yeah.
But I still have never smoked
In front of them
because they hate it so much. So I'm just sparing them.
I told my parents I smoked after I spent some time in Berlin. When I came back, I was like, oh, I started smoking in Europe.
I think I learned to roll cigarettes in Europe. It's really pathetic.
Me too.
Yeah. But in Sicily, not in Berlin.
Anyway, I don't know if I'll smoke with her. I'd rather she not smoke, but she might smoke, and then, whatever. I just want her to be happy, and I'm so proud of her. I'm obsessed with her. Anyway.
I'm also a little bit obsessed.
She's very cool.
But I want to meet this child. But
I'll meet her.
JP is
I'll have her on next.
Maybe she can be our next
Yeah, she'll be on the pod.
correspondent. Yeah.
But JP is a very Scott Adams character, minus the cubicle-inspired humor. I said this before, and I'll say it again. He makes this argument that enforced monogamy and sexual redistribution will stem the tide of rising male violence.
Oh, right, yeah.
And of course, he doesn't actually want any of those scenarios to come true, because if they did, he'd be out of a job. First of all, all the speaking engagements and donations would dry
the
up.
disaffected, discontented gentleman.
Secondly, if we, as I said in our incel special, if we ever really were to return to an absolute patriarchy, the alphas would be in control of not only women but also the betas.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have their access to pussy as they claim anyway. They'd actually be much worse off in the long run, right? And so
Enforced monogamy would effectively like box them out.
it would box them
entirely.
out. They'd all have to become monks. And like what he actually wants is not a return to a male-dominated society. He wants it to be true that the female-dominated society is oppressing him and keeping him from expressing his natural sexual urges. Because if that's not the case, if it's not like women and libs and fags who are oppressing him, then the problem is you, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of like the gospel he preaches, which is, in my mind, an egregious violation of kind of the relationship between a shrink, let's say, and his patient.
I can't even imagine how this man was like a practicing
It's
therapist.
crazy.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah, he's a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, let's say, but in my understanding, the idea is that the shrink is supposed to bring you to like a level of higher awareness about yourself slowly by like asking the right questions and not leaving judgments and stuff. And he's basically what people are paying for, the service they're paying for with Jordan Peterson is kind of like to protect themselves,
to have their worldview like reflected back to them.
Yeah, to keep to consolidate their defense mechanism effectively.
Which is exactly what he argues against.
Right.
Because he doesn't think you should protect people from things that are sharp, like sharp edges and the truth.
Yeah, and that's essentially what he's
thinks
doing.
you should accept the terrible responsibility of life.
He also thinks you should stand up straight with your shoulders back.
That's never gonna
in your room or
happen.
whatever.
I'll tell you right now, this hunch is staying, bitch.
We have horrible posture
It's
here.
cool to slouch. Standing up straight sucks.
Yeah, but in some sense that Jordan Peterson is like a great embodiment of the psychiatric profession in America, period, because like, one of the things that I thought was like the most inaccurate thing about like The Sopranos, right, which is one of my favorite shows, is that in the show, Melfi helps Tony come to the realization that his mother is an evil harpy, right? And he like realizes this and like has a meltdown or whatever. But in my mind, the psychiatric profession, everything around it is designed to protect people from coming to these insights, because otherwise it would sort of cease to
Put them
exist.
out of business.
Yeah, they'd be out of business. And that's sort of like Jordan Peterson's big gambit.
Any last thoughts on
Yeah.
Sorry, any last thoughts?
I hate Jordan Peterson's suits.
Well, they're not even suits. He wears like blazers with jeans.
No, and the Times thing, he was
Oh,
wearing
when
like
he
a
does
like a piping, like a silver, like a blazer with
Literally
silver.
a snake oil salesman
Yeah.
costume.
Incredible.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
We'll see you
We'll see you now.
No, I don't know her, but
So I went with her to store like 3 years ago or something, and we met James. And she introduced me to James, and this was when I had just written a piece in the Times magazine about Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah.
But he got it wrong. She introduced me, and she was like, "Oh, this is Nomi." She like wrote this thing about Vanderpump Rules, and he was like, he was very James, like he was like very arrogant, and like a total dick. And then at the end, he said, "Keep writing about me into New Yorker, darling." So he actually predicted my hire by the New Yorker, like 3 years before
sanctioned by
that.
James Kennedy himself.
Yeah, so